It hasn't been too long since I known about all the stories that have been around the world. I've read things about different openings, how they could even imagine. I could tell you guys about all the horror stories I've heard about on different channels, but I don't think I will because from what my experiences are in real life and through my dreams, they were dramatically traumatic to me. And this is my story here. Number one. During my own dream that I was in, I don't really recall every detail, but it went like this. I was in my own house and through the whole time, and my night was like any other. But when I went to the washroom just to wash my hands, there was something more darker in there. I don't know what it was, but my dad called, and once he did call, the water turned red, purple, white, and then turned to pure lava. I didn't know what to even expect after that. But after I heard a yell through the house of all the wind that went through, it got more darker than that. There was a tap on the door that I couldn't even figure out. Through the dream, I couldn't even think. But all I could know is that I was in some kind of asylum after all that. I knew if I wanted to survive, I had to get out of there easily. But before I got out of the one room I was in through the washroom, I looked back at the sink. The lava, lights, and everything was gone. There wasn't even a tap there anymore. All I saw was an eye through the mirror. An eye of the devil Pazuzu. What I didn't even know what it was, though, was an actual human being formed into the demon Pazuzu. When I looked back through the doors that came through my house, all I saw was a graveyard. A graveyard of nothing other that I couldn't explain. All I knew was there was one thing in the darkness. That there was a person that was actually in a black hood, gray pants, and light and shocking socks. I couldn't even explain why his face was more than creepier than ever. It looked like a zombie from the Matrix. But knowingly that the Matrix was a figment of my imagination back then, through this dream, anything was possible. When I heard other sounds coming through the walls, I went to go explore. The doors kept opening and closing on their own. I couldn't think of anything else more horrifying, but it was all through the idea that I had in my head. That was more creepy and horrifying. If you know what I was talking about, you would be thinking of Child's Play or Chucky the doll. But no, it really wasn't. It was more like a scene from Halloween. But then again, what could it have been? I know what you would think. Why would this even matter in a dream? But in a dream it could seem all more real than anything ever you could even think of. But within my dream, it's all my worst fears come to life. The next part of the dream is where it gets more horrifying. When you even think about it. Where I was at the point, the sink vanishes, all the lava's gone, but then the room changed. It's like it simultaneously, it moved me to another part somewhere. beyond the basement, beyond the house, beyond the backyard. I it moved me into a forest where I was being chased. I couldn't think of it at first, but you know what? I knew where I was. I was in the forest in my own backyard. If you go for a walk around my neighborhood, you would see a forest that goes deeper than anything. It's like 100 feet of a forest all around. You wouldn't know which way is up or down, or left or right, because the forest is creepy at night. During this part of the dream, it was mostly at night, where I saw a dark, tall figure. I couldn't even describe this in one. It looked like Slender Man, but it really wasn't. As I tried to approach him, this slender fella that looked more than over about 40 years old. He seemed nice. And then when I went to go greet him, he said, "No! Get the hell away from me." And I was confused at first. In this forest, I thought, why does this guy look so creepy and nice at the same time? But he just snaps at me like that. And I went to go like, okay, but why are you out here? There's no one out here really at night. You know, there's a street lamp up there that you can walk to. And then the guy goes like, "No, I live in the forest. I would rather eat bugs and snakes and shit than go up there again." And then I went like, okay, what the fuck? It didn't really make sense to me at the time in this dream. But this was the definition of a horror film in my own dream. And then when I went to go walk around the forest and explore, a new part of a pathway came to form. It manifested into a different part of a world where I saw my house again. But when I came back to my house, it was all burned down to a crisp. No one was around. And then when I went into the main floor of this burned to crisp house, the only thing that was surviving, blood all over, was Jackson. My dear dog Jackson was there. I tried to pick him up, but when I tried to, there was a scream that I couldn't even think of a definition of. I guess it would have to be a scream from a different world of screams. But that's when I woke up. And that's the first part of the story. Number 2. This next one is about on Halloween night. I couldn't figure out how to even think of a night like this. But when I went through the house, it was a bit more disturbing than you think. The house is always ordinarily in the light, but this time it was in the dark. The mirrors were different this time. I kept on seeing shadows around me. I don't know why it was so different this time, but when I went around the house, things seemed the same. But then it drove me insane at night. At night, or when the kids were coming to trick or treat, it wasn't fun for me to see their faces around. But when I saw the one of the kids, it looked horrifying because they had some kind of different costumes that I didn't see before. Then when I went online to check out a costume, I realized it was an actual thing from an online dark costume that looked completely horrifying. And then I went to bed that night. I dreamed about it. I was inside an asylum that kept on going for miles and miles. And in the dream, I was trapped there for 10 years, hearing the same scratching noises. I didn't know what was making them in this one. And I heard some kind of crazy laughter that I couldn't even explain. I couldn't even explain that one. I heard it through all the dreams that gave me nightmares for days after I woke up. But in the dream at that point, all I could see was a crazed guy with a smiley face that looked like the devil's face that had the Joker smile on it. It looked so realistic, but yet so cartoony with of the creepy things that they could do. I couldn't even think about any more of it. During the time that I was in the asylum, it wasn't very fun because I kept on seeing Freddy Krueger of a shadow. But then when I got to a point in the asylum, I couldn't even breathe because right when I walked into the most darkest bedroom, I saw a face, a skeleton face that had goat's blood on it. I was horrified as hell from this one. I muttered the words, "What the hell is that?" And then this goat face covered with goat blood came out into view. And then I realized it wasn't bones or anything that I could have thought of. It was worse than that. It was a gang of clowns from 2017. It was the most disturbing thing of all. They slaughtered a couple dozen inmates and put on the inmates jumpsuits that the asylum gave them originally. And when I woke up that same night, I was covered in sweat. It had to be like 1 o'clock in the morning that night. I couldn't figure it out. But then when I woke up, I went to the washroom to wash my face off from all that nightmarish stuff. I saw in the mirror the same clown faces that I dreamed about that night. Number 3. This one really isn't that more realistic than the other one, but I'm gonna sugarcoat it for fun. This time it was in more of a detailed way. I was going through a gym class of a sort. By the way, this was in a dream as well. I was going through a gymnasium. It was a class of a sort that I could always enjoy I always imagined myself going to the gym every day, getting fit again, but I could never do it. Anyways, and there was a couple of creepy people there. There was a guy with a baseball cap on that he looked like he had cancer, but he didn't even have much going on. So he was trying to get fit so he could stay healthy and knowing later what he was going through. And his friend who was beside him was also trying to figure out a way on how to stay fit because without the use of his legs, he could only use his arms to pull himself together. But anyways, during that time, I went around outside to go have a bit of time to myself and take a break from the gym. There's this one guy that called me up and asked me for my number. I don't know why, but I guess I had to give it to him, or else he would do something that I wouldn't like. But anyways, that same night, I got a call from this guy. I don't know why I even answered it. He was just muttering some other words that I couldn't even figure out what he was even saying. I thought he had a brain tumor in him that got him to say some things that were random. But then when I went in to the washroom that same night after I got home, I heard the door knock again. I thought, who the hell could this be? Who would want to try to wake someone up at night? But then when I got to the door, it was the guy behind the gymnasium again. I couldn't believe that I even saw the guy again. It was the most horrifying thing that I ever saw. But then again, a few other times I saw more things that scarier than that. But anyways, here we are. So here we are, and then I finally went to bed. I didn't hear anything at night, but except for Jackson walking around. Jackson kept walking around, pacing and everything. I thought it was weird that he was walking on 2 legs and not just on all 4 legs. I went upstairs and I saw a tall man that had a dark brown hoodie on with a hood over his face with a brown mask over his face. And I thought, what the frick was this? What in the world was I even seeing? Then I saw a gun in his hand with a knife in his other hand. He put the knife up to me and said, where could I find your most valuable intake of any information that you could ever love the most? And I thought, what is this guy talking about? And then he repeated the phrase again, but in a different way. But I kept on saying, why are you asking me this? Please get the hell out of my house. But then I felt something different in the room. Someone stabbed me in the shoulder and the back. I couldn't breathe for a couple of minutes because I couldn't figure it out. But then the most unforgiving thing I came into fruition. I woke up on my couch and I couldn't believe it that I dreamt the whole thing So this has been the most horrifying dream that I could ever think of. I don't even know why I imagined this. It was just the most disturbing thing of all.